And so I took anthropology courses and math courses and engineering design courses. That's what I was doing there, that first year. And I guess it was just going back and forth to community college. I had no politics, what have you, etc. No, boom. And then being at Merritt College, I guess I saw these guys at a street rally across the street from Merritt College near one of the local restaurants or whatever. And they were out there, about 40, 50 students standing around, some of them standing off the curb and the streets, etc. And there was some group called the Afro-American Association. The Afro-American Association has come here today to tell it like it is. This is 1962, February. I walked across the street with my big see-through carrying case with my drafting board and this plastic carrying case and my other instruments and stuff. And I looked and I saw a guy standing in the back. His name was William Brumfield. I said, William Brumfield, are you part of this organization? He says, yes, Bobby. I said, well, how you doing, man, et cetera, blah, 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 blah. William Brumfield's brother, younger brother, had been a friend of mine when we were 15, 16, and 17 years old. And I asked him now, I says, what is this Afro-American Association? Because we hadn't heard these phrases before. I had never heard of it before. Black folks was referenced as colored people or Negro people, etc. And all of this change, to having correct social science reference to our ethnicity and other people's ethnicities, etc., was a part of the struggle at that time in those days. And the Afro-American Association had come there to tell it like it is, said Donald Wharton. And I asked William Brumfield, and I said, you're part of this? He says, yes, Bobby. I said, what is this Afro-American stuff, man? And he looks at me, he says, Bobby, who are the Sioux? I said, their name is not the Sioux, their name is the Lakota, you know that. Your brother and I told you that. He says, right. And he says that the name is really the Lakota. I said, that's the true name of the Sioux. The word Sioux is a French word. You have to see the etymology of that. And it's really not the true name of that Native American group. And if you look at Dances with Wolves, and the subscript of the Native Americans speaking, and they write it along in there and say, we Lakota people, etc., instead of saying the word Sioux, okay? But naturally, the Army and other people referred to their whole ethnic group as the Sioux, which I'm just pointing that out. But that was important when William said that, who are the Sioux, etc. He said, so when we say Afro-American, we're not saying Negro American, we're not saying Negroes, and nor are we using the derogatory nigger term. He says that stuff is out. We're saying that we are and African-American people, just like Italian or Italian-American people, or whoever in what ethnic group. This is what we are as a people, and we are proud, etc. We are not ugly, we're not bad, we're not docile, we're not this. I says, oh, well, so I left William Brumfield alone. I says, okay, because I had to agree with him. I knew the false name of the Sioux, and so they were saying this is a reference point. So that was the beginning, and I read a book by Robert Williams called Negroes with Guns, Monroe, North Carolina. United States Marines he had been in fighting in the Korean War. And after the Korean War was long over, he joined the NAACP in Monroe, North Carolina, where high levels of outright, overt discrimination against Black Americans existed in that town, in that community. So he joined the NAACP, and they was there in 19 1959, protesting in front of Cress's stores. It used to be a 5 and dime thing. Woolworth stores, people, some of the old people will tell you about that, etc. Well, black people shopped, but they never hired black people, and that's what they were protesting about. We want you to hire some black people here, you know, blah, 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 blah. So after a couple of weeks of that, and newspapers and all that kind of stuff started covering this stuff, what have you, etc., boom. One night, some Ku Klux Klanners, half of them in their little white sheets and crap, others not even in their white sheets, and 10 or 15 cars, pickup trucks, etc., drove through the Monroe, North Carolina black community, shooting up as they drove through, all into the houses, what have you, etc., catching people by surprise, what have you. A couple of people got wounded, etc., and that kind of stuff. And that was it. Now here's Robert Williams, you know, this man, the combat fighter with the Korean War, etc., and he said, whoa, we can't have this, you know, and he tried to talk to other people downtown, and the sheriff and others, and they ignored him, and didn't want to even be bothered with him, etc. And that's kind of crap. And he went down to protest again, and sure in hell, give them 4 or 5 days, they come driving to the community and doing it again. But Robert Williams declared, said, well, we're not going to take this. We got to get more guns. Most people did have a shotgun in their house, you know, even if they were black. He says, but we're going to get more guns and we're going to defend ourselves. We're not going to come through this. So the NAACP says, no, don't advocate getting guns, because we don't have no politicians and we don't have no power to, the sheriff department is not going, they're not going to investigate the Ku Klux Klan coming down, so therefore they're supporting the Ku Klux Klan to do that. And then the argument goes on, and the NAACP says, look, leave, Robert Williams, you leave, please. And finally he went on to leave, because they were going to charge him. And he left the country, in effect. So I'm reading this book in 1962, Negroes with Guns. And my point is that there were no politicians and no political structure to defend black folks. You had the NAACP, but the NAACP was limited. You don't have political power seats, you know, to halt this kind of stuff. That was impressive to me. But as I began to start studying my African and African American history, this is what happened. While working on the Gemini Missile program, you know, and I'm still at Merritt College, and I go to work at night, and this lasted for three years and 9 months, that job. But my point is, during that period, I'm studying and understanding my African American history. I digested the work of W.E.B. Du Bois. Black Reconstruction was the title of that book. I digested the book by Dr. Herbert Aptheker, documenting 250 slave revolts from the year 1800 to 1857. This kind of history was not in the books. Nobody taught this history nowhere in America. I mean, this just didn't exist. We actually fought back, you know, in being in slavery, as most human beings on one level or another are going to do anyway. But now, I mean, to me, this is 1962. Wow, I didn't realize that. And then I got a hold of his other book a few months later that Dr. Herbert Aptheker done. He documents all the wars black Americans had fought in the United States of America, going all the way back to the beginning of war with the British, etc., and so on. That, I didn't realize that. In other words, this stuff was becoming, I don't believe this. One situation, Lafayette was a French general that came over to support George Washington and others in the early colonial days, you know. And he went to New England, this French general, with an entourage, what have you, and start talking to the colonist people there, and telling them how you unorganized, and that, don't you know, or he was informing them, that the King of England has hired the German Russian soldiers, and in several ships, he's going to ship a whole crew of the German Russian soldiers here to rout out all of you colonial people here. And you better start doing that. And then these few slaves you got around here, you better give them their freedom and et cetera, and help get them train you so that you can have something to fight with when the German Russian soldiers get here. Well, it took a year for the German Russian soldiers to get there, right? And the big battle, when those ships landed at Rhode Island, the predominant crew was the black folks who had been trained to help out with the colonials that kicked the German soldiers' butts trying to come off the ships. Now, people don't know this, but black folks from the beginning and the evolvement of this country was fighting for this country. You see what I'm getting at? So this is very important. Other people's gallant stands for the right of the people. We knew about them, but they took out the fact. Even the Civil War in the United States of America, really, when I read W.B. Du Bois, he showed that the Emancipation Proclamation of freeing slaves in 5 states only at the beginning, which was an executive order and not an amendment to the Constitution, it was an executive order by Abraham Lincoln, because they could not enlist or constrict other people in other colonies to join the federal government's army. And Abraham Lincoln said, we'll be losing the war. Well, what he did is he wrote the Emancipation Proclamation for the 5 states in the South with heavy Confederate resistance. And with those 5 states, he said, and thenceforever forth free in the Emancipation Proclamation. But this was a military tactic on the part of the President of the United States, Lincoln, at that time. Why? Because when you read the Emancipation Proclamation and thenceforever forth free, the very next line in the paragraph says, all able-bodied black men will be taken into the Northern Union Army. Read W.B. Du Bois. In effect, 168,000 black men were pulled into the army, trained, uniformed, etc., and embraced the whole structure, and in effect, they were the ones who predominantly in the situation stopped the Confederates and won the war for the North. Now, we are, in my sense, in the 1960s, we are citizens of these United States based on the 13th Amendment that ends slavery. And remember, Abraham Lincoln, before he accepted the surrender of the South, he made sure that the existing Congress, ended slavery by amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, that's the 13th Amendment. And that's the point I'm getting at. So here's generations of black people, African people, etc., evolving and coming out of slavery, stopping slavery, etc., overt slavery. And in effect, in that Reconstruction period, there were 6 black men duly elected to political office, I found out. I said, you mean to tell me some black folks was elected to political office in the United States government in 1800? I didn't know this. But when I found this stuff out, see, you get that view and says, wait a minute. So here we are now in 60s still fighting for civil rights and ending discrimination, etc., boom, boom, boom. So that overwhelms me. It makes me more concerned with the civil rights, human rights what Martin Luther King is about. And Martin Luther King, I remember, came to speak. I was still working at the Gemini Missile Program. I'd been there 3 years. And he spoke. He came to speak to Oakland Auditorium in Oakland, California. That theater holds 6,750 people by seats, etc. I says, let me go down here. Now, I didn't have any organization at this time. And I went down there to hear this brother speak, this Martin Luther King guy. All I know is he's a preacher, and he doesn't preach hell and damnation. He preaches about getting rid of discrimination. You know, and I was a kid, man. When they sent me to church, you know, you had them preachers preach hell and damnation, and that devil's gonna get that pitchfork and stick you in the butt and throw you in that fire. When you were a kid, you almost traumatized. Traumatized. But I got tired of that, you know what I mean, as a child. So actually I started, after a year or two of that, I started sneaking off and going to the movies instead of going to Sunday school. But back in those days, in the late 40s, the kids from the movies on Sundays and Saturdays, you know how much it was? 14 cents. We got it in the movie. Then later, a little later on, it went to a quarter, you know what I mean? So then by the 1950s, it was a 50 cent. But my point is, I escaped to the movies, and I love the cowboy movies, and I love Burn Up Barns and Flash Garden and all these kind of things, etc., blah, blah, blah. And of course, I was brainwashed about Africa with Tarzan, you know what I mean? The guy, Tarzan, sort of runs Africa according to the movies, right? You know what I mean? What, this guy can talk to the animals and tell a herd of, he can talk to the animals and tell a herd of elephants, tell them to go over there and beat up on these, my adversaries or whatever. And the elephants go over there and do it. This is shit. Tarzan ran back. So, until I get into my research and my studies and understanding, and I read a book by Jomo Kenyatta called Facing Mount Kenya. It's a black African guy who went to England and got him a degree, came to America and got a degree, went back to Kenya, etc., boom, 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 and as things developed, he began to trying to organize his people out from under the yoke of English colonialism over this country in Kenya. And I says, wow, so Tarzan doesn't run Africa.